Hi, fifth graders. Today's topics are going to be division, word problems, powers of 10, and exponents. So it's basically going to be like practice. We're going to start off with division. So we're going to do number 4 together, which gives us 870 divided by 5. So I'm going to set it up for you guys. So it's going to be 5 on the outside since it's the divisor. And then 870 on the inside because it's the dividend. So now we're just going to divide. So let's see, can 5 go into 8? Yes, it can, but it can only go in once, because if we were to put it twice, then 10 would be bigger than 8, and that's not possible. So 5 times 1 is just 5, and we put minus 5, and we get 8 minus 5, which is 3. Now we bring the 7 down, and it becomes 37. Now we need to see how many times 5 can go into 37. So let's choose a random number. Let's say 6. 5 times 6 equals 30. And I want to see if more can go into 37. So I'm going to choose 7. And 7 times 5 equals 35. Now, just in case, let's do times 8. But 5 times 8 equals 40. So our closest number will be 35, which is when you multiply 5 by 7. So it'll be 37 minus 35. And then the 3's cancel out, so you're just gonna do 7 minus 5, which gives you 2. And once again, we're gonna bring down to 0. And then we get 20 instead of 2. And we need to see how many times 5 goes into 20. And we know that 4 times 5 equals 20, so 5 can go into 20 evenly. So we get 4 times 5, which is 20, so we subtract 20 from 20. And we get 20 minus 20, which is 0. So in this case, we had no remainders, so our answer is just going to be 174. So when you're dividing with multi-digit numbers, just make sure that all your numbers are aligned, same as when you multiply. Now we're going to do the same thing, but in terms of word problems. So lesson number 2. A group of 117 business people needs to take shuttle vans to the airport. If each shuttle van can take 9 people, how many shuttle vans will the business people need? Okay, so we know that there's a total of 117 business people, right? So that's going to be our total. But we also know that each shuttle bus can take a maximum of 9 of those people. So in order to find out how many shuttle bus vans in total, we're going to have to divide 117 by 9, because that'll give us how many vans we're going to need. So 9 is going to be our divisor. And 117 will be our dividend. So it'll go on the inside. So when we're dividing, in this case, we can't do it for 1 because 9 is greater than 1. So we're just going to put it as how many times can 9 go into 11? And we know that 9 can go into 11 only once, right? Because 9 times 2 equals 18, and 18 is way bigger than 11. So we're going to stick with 1. And in this case, we're not going to put the 1 in front of the hundreds place. We're going to put it where the tens place is. So it's going to be right there. 9 times 1 is just 9, and so we're going to subtract 9 from 11, and we get 2, right? And then we're going to bring down the 7, and then we get 27 instead of 2. And we know that 9 can go into 27 3 times, and because 9 times 3 equals 27, so 27 minus 27 will just give us 0. So no remainders, and we have a exact number of 13. So when it says how many shuttle vans will the business people need, they will need 13 vans. You don't need to put shuttle vans. I feel like vans is just fine. Just make sure that you're always labeling, because when you're doing word problems, labeling or units is important. Now we're going to do powers of 10. So we're going to do 3 problems for this one, which is 2, 3, and 5. I chose 2 and 3 because a lot of people can make a tiny mistake. So when we have something to the power of 1, then it's always going to be just that base number, right? But if we have something to the power of 0, then it's always going to be 1. So this is something that you have to keep in mind when you're doing exponents. A lot of people can get this wrong because it's easy to forget, but you should never forget it. And a lot of people get them confused too. So know that everything to the power of 1 is always going to be the base number. Everything to the power of 0 will always give you 1. Nothing else, okay? So keeping that in mind, let's do 2. So for number 2, it gives us 10 to the power of 1. And it says right here, if it's to the power of 1, then it's going to be the base number. And in this case, the base number is 10. So 10 to the power of 1 would be just 10. Now, let's look at number 3. It gives us 10 to the power of 0. And my other rule stated that if it's to the power of 0, then it's always going to be 1. So despite the fact that the base number is 10, it's just going to give you just 1. Anything to the power of 0 is just 1. So that's what I chose these 2 specific questions so that you guys know this rule. Now let's do number 5, 2 times 10 to the 8th. I'm pretty sure this one wants you to expand it, so that's what we're going to do. So in terms of this equation, 2 is the same thing as 2.0. And when it says times 10 to the power of 8, it wants us to move this decimal point to the right 8 times. So that's what we're going to do. So we move it 8 times. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So our decimal point is going to be right there. And in these empty spaces, we're just going to put a 0. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oops. And just to make sure, this little like turning point right here is going to determine how many times you turn. So it's going to be, we turn it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. So that's going to be our final answer for this one. So if you want the commas, it would have been, you write it as, it's every 3, so it's going to be 200 million. Wow, that's a big number. So you put 200 million. Now, as for the decimal point that's that we put on the bottom, it doesn't really matter because it's the same thing as I said. If 2 is the same thing as 2.0, then 200 million.0 is the same thing as just 200 million. Now we're going to move on to exponents. So this one is very easy. It's just expanding it. And so what's that mean is, like, if we look at number 6, it gives us 4 to the power of 2. So what that means is we're not going to multiply 4 and 2 together. No, that's not it. It gives us a base of 4, so we're going to use that, and we're going to multiply 4 2 times. So this would be 4 times 4. So when you're multiplying or expanding, you don't use anything other than the base. The exponent, it just tells you how many times you have to multiply it by. And in this case, we just multiply 4 by itself twice. So it's going to be 16. And if you look throughout, there's like questions like number 3, which gives you 7 to the power of 0. And for that one, you just look back at this rule that I gave you. And that's all I have for you guys today. I hope this video helped you guys a bit.